I lived in Wisconsin, and I lived on a sailboat. Every winter, that sailboat had to be put in storage. So I built this houseboat down in Tennessee, and I've been coming down here for winters for the last 5 years. This is the first year that I brought my sailboat down here, and I just stayed in Tennessee year round. So this is the first full 365-day cycle that I've been on this houseboat. And I am now coming back into winter time, which is now my 6th winter that I will be living on this houseboat. When you get a horseshoe bend that enters a creek, where that's the main channel, you come in and then you can go back on itself. You can find wind protection in here from almost every direction because of that horseshoe shape. Knowing where these are before a big windy day is a good thing, and getting yourself there and tied up. My boat right now is not getting very much wind at all, but we are getting hit. Yeah. So it's been freezing, or getting below freezing, getting below 30 the last night or so. So there won't be any snakes out here. I thought it'd be a good day for River and I to go check out the woods. Which we haven't done lately. And I might show you in the next couple episodes, but hunters pretty much, as soon as it gets cold, hunters come out and start hunting. So you don't really want to go traipsing around in the wood with your dog during that time frame. But today we're going to talk about how to extend your boondocking. One of the biggest shockers that I had, River, come here, bud, stay over here, come here, was as soon as I bought a nice RV, I couldn't stay out in the woods for 14 days at a time because things would fill up. My tank would fill up. Yeah, it was weird to me that if you go tenting, you can stay tenting for 45 or 50 days, and all you do is run to the store to get some ingredients or take your garbage out. But as soon as you get into an RV, all of a sudden now you have to take your RV to go dump your black water or plug in to get more power after a few days or what have you. They're pretty much made, there's limits to how long you can stay out in them. Whereas tent camping, it's based on going to get provisions. So the first thing I did was I didn't get I got a trailer and I kept my pickup truck. And I thought that that was a better way for me to go and stay somewhere for 14 days and just run errands if I have to run errands, or if I need water, I can just run and get water or what have you without moving the RV. If you have an RV that you drive, I still think you should have a secondary vehicle, whether it's a motorcycle or another car that you tow or whatever. I know a bunch of husband and wife teams that have big trucks that they tow a trailer with to have all their goodies in it, and then they have a big RV that the spouse drives too. And when they drive together, they move both vehicles at the same time. I actually know one that has a huge horse trailer and a huge fifth wheel RV and two 3500s. And when they move their horses with them. And they stay in campsites all over Texas with their horses. I know another couple that's just like that, where they have a huge trailer and it's dogs. They have 30 show dogs where they go from show to show to show. So essentially what I want to talk about is how, even though I had a brand new RV, I didn't use the black tank and I didn't use the gray tank. I would shower outside and I would wash my dishes outside and I would use my bucket toilet. And that made it so there was no limitation to how long I could boondock. I just had to add water to the system with my 5-gallon buckets. Basically, I had to go somewhere with my truck or with my dinghy and go get 5 gallons of whatever it is I needed. 5-gallon jerry cans of gas, 5-gallon jerry cans of water, 5-gallon jerry cans of diesel. And if I needed that, I would go get it and I would come back. And I would never have to leave early if I forgot the salt or something like that, I could just run to the store. The other thing is, plan on going to the store. Don't try to get everything. Bring an extra vehicle and plan every Friday to go to the store and get stuff that you want. So you don't feel like, I don't know, make boondocking your life rather than make your life fit into boondocking, you know? So I go to the store every week. I know if I could go every 10 days, I'd spend less money. But I'm working on that, and now it's about every week, you know? Before I used to go to the store 3 times a week just for something to do, basically. Now I'm getting better at that. I just go in the woods. The first little frost will come through here where it gets wet at night and it's cold, and all the rest of these leaves will fall, and then the wind and stuff will get into here. But right now it's still a really good block. I'll show you one difference now because there's less leaves. Like 50% of the leaves are gone in the trees right now already. So this island is not blocking the wind very well. So what I've been looking for, and what's great about this area, is look how far the boat is down. It's actually blocked by the shoreline. Maybe 70% of my boat is blocked just by the shoreline being higher than the boat. So when the wind comes through here, it just hits the top part of the boat. And it's a windy day. I don't know if you've ever been tied off on anchor or tied off to a dock when it's a windy day, but your boat still moves. And it's really cool to be able to, the way I have it tied now, it's barely moving, and there's a lot of wind blowing, but if you can tie it up nice where it's not moving, you feel more like a cabin in the woods rather than a boat bobbing around on the water. Now the other thing is having different sources of like how you cook. So I have propane, and I have my fireplace that you can use wood, and then I have an electric skillet, right? So even if I run out of propane, I can just wait till my next weekly run to the store. I don't have to rush and go get propane. The other one is coming into winter. What I don't think people understand is winter is by far the best time to go camping. There are no people, no bugs, no snakes. Most even like bad alligators and most animals like bears and stuff like that are gone. Like they're hibernating. They're not walking around. So it's the safest time to go. It's the quietest time to go. There is a type of quiet that can only be found below zero, where not one bird makes a noise, not one bug makes a noise. There's no leaves to make rustling when the wind goes through. It's just dead quiet. You don't find that anywhere else or at any other time of the year. So I look forward to it. But I have an electric heater for emergencies where I can run my generator. All of my boats and my generator run off the same type of fuel. So I always have 5 gallons of gas somewhere. If in an emergency I run out of propane, I could take the fuel from the main boat, dump it in the generator, turn on my electric heater, leave the boat warm, and go get propane in the dinghy for the dog and cat to make sure that the thermostat stays. So I have an electric heater, I have a propane heater, and then my regular use 100% of the time over the last 5 years has been my diesel heater. And you just turn it on and you forget that it even running. You just hear it click, 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 click from the fuel pump. And it just, thermostat set, you leave it alone, you just do what you do. It's awesome. You fill up the tank every once in a while with diesel. Yeah. I did a video on it, and on that video I showed what the usage was, but it was pretty low. But I'll link that in the description if you guys want to take a look at that. But it's something I set up all by myself. I didn't need any help. And it has worked now. This will be the 6th winter that I use it, and it's my primary source of heat. So the other one is, so having different fuel sources for heat, having different fuel sources for cooking, and then the variation of separating your water, your drinking water, from everything. So get a Berkey, get your own 5 gallons of water, a jug that you don't fill up with river water, just a normal jug that you only fill at marinas or you only fill at, you know, a park or whatever where you kind of trust the water, and then run that water through your Berkey, right? But then the rest of the water that you use for washing dishes and showering and hosing off the deck, use river water. Just go fill up your RV with river water. And when you're showering out back and washing your dishes, use that river water. Don't use the same tank for drinking water as you do for the rest of the water. Separate that. And that way, getting water can turn into an adventure where you're just taking your dog for a hike down to a stream and you're filling up a tank of a 5-gallon bucket, bringing it back and dumping it in your RV or dumping it in my case, I'm in the river, so I don't ever have to get it. But like, if I was on my RV, I would use the 5-gallon bucket to fill it up. So what I use is a pump that pumps out of the river and runs a hose to my shower and runs a hose to spray off my dishes. So, and then I have 5-gallon drinking jugs that I fill up at the marina. What are you doing, buddy? Come here. He's chasing birds. You're chasing birds! He's so excited. Pretty soon the birds will have no leaves to hide behind. Yeah. Okay, you see how we are in more than, I don't know, 300 feet from the river's edge. And look at how the flood line right in here, all these branches got pushed up against the shore from the flood. All the way in here. From, you know, that's the highest part that the water hit, and it just lapped against the shore right here. Huh. Yeah. Imagine. That's why they don't build houses here anywhere near the river unless they're on huge stilts. And most of the properties near the river are for RV parks or marinas where everything floats. So, I'm trying to figure a trail back. My little munchkin. Little gopher hole. Come on, let's go. So I would say the little trick of not using your gray water tank or your black water tank when you're boondocking can extend it. It can make it so you last to that 14 days. You won't ever have to go empty your black water halfway through. Now I know that there's portable black water tanks. I've done every type of toilet that you can buy, and they're just, everything's gross until you start getting into sawdust, where you just tie the bag, take the bag, and throw it in the garbage. Anything else, you're just pumping raw sewage or dumping raw sewage. Whoever wants to do that, that's just not something that I recommend. But you can extend your, whatever your tank life is or whatever your electricity life is, you can extend that with a generator, and you can just not use the tanks. Use the outdoor shower to wash your dishes, and use the outdoor shower, it's hot water, to shower outside while you're out boondocking. But that doesn't mean that you shouldn't use your tanks when you're at an RV park and you're hooked up, regular hookups. If you're paying for hookups, use them, right? And then just wash the whole system out before you leave. When you go back boondocking again, pull out your bucket and start using your shower outside. That's the whole point of boondocking. No one's around. Yeah. Now, the last thing I'm going to talk about while we're in here, I just walked inside to my boat, and the thermostat is set at 72, and it feels amazing. I don't want people to be upset with me about this, so I'm going to preface it, a pretty large preface. When I lived on the sailboat, a lot of my activity and a lot of my fun was taking the dog to the beach and collecting driftwood and cutting that driftwood up into 5 to 8 inch little pieces so that I could fill my little tiny stove in my sailboat. Having the fire burning is one of the driest sources of heat that you can have. So if it's raining and crappy out, lighting a fire makes the environment inside your cabin, in your little space, really toasty and warm and dry. Okay? So I'm not telling people not to have a fireplace. What I am saying is that when I was camping up in Canada and I was in a tent and I had a fireplace, the worst part of it And the worst part of this boat, before I got the diesel heater, was waking up and being cold, like getting out of bed and being cold. So I always recommend, if your primary source of heat is a fireplace, I'm not going to knock you on that. There's nothing wrong with that, okay? But get a little buddy heater so that you can turn it on from your bed to heat your space before you get out of bed. So you're never have to go through that cold, freezing little section to light a fire, right? Let your fire go out at night so you're never worried about like the fire lasting through the night. And little buddy little buddy heaters, if you leave the pilot light on, they'll run for a long time, almost 20 hours off of one little tank of fuel. And that little pilot light is heating the cell, so it gives enough heat to take the freezing out of the air of a small space if you're just running the pilot light. However, those two heating sources are not my recommended heating source. Spend $150 and get a diesel heater. Even if you live in a tent, get a diesel heater. They run off of a thermostat, and having a thermostat and being able to bring it down to 50 degrees at night, not use very much heat or not use very much fuel, and then jump it up when you get out of bed to 72 degrees, makes it able to be where animals can live perfectly fine. They don't get freezing cold. They're not trying to hover under your blanket with you, and they're not afraid to get out of the blanket when you move around at night. You're also that level of comfort that you get. Now, you can just reach over and hit. They come with remote controls, man. I have a remote control for my diesel heater, and it sits right there, and I hit it from bed, and the temperature goes up from 50 degrees to 72. And essentially, what I'm saying is that having a thermostat as part of your life, even if you're outdoor camping and if you're winter camping, it's a huge difference. I like the fact that I had a fireplace on my sailboat and that I have a fireplace here on this houseboat, but I also, if I don't want to start a fire and I don't want to go on and look for wood, I don't have to, right? And I'm not waking up cold. I have the heater is going overnight all the time. So I guess my biggest point is that if you just have a wood burning stove that gets to be old after a week or so, it starts to be like your whole day is collecting wood, putting wood in the fire, and keeping going. Now, none of this really matters when you're talking about camping at 50 degrees, but when it starts to be 30 and below the whole time you're camping or you're outside, you want a constant heat source. And then all of a sudden the fire is you're producing, you have to produce wood or go find wood all the time. As you get older, the activity of getting wood and collecting wood is a very good exercise. Pardon me. Because you're bending over, you're picking up small amounts of weights, you're repeatedly getting yourself warm by sawing and chopping and what have you. So I'm not going against it. I don't think it's a bad thing at all. But I do think that you should have a source of heat that you don't. What if you hurt your back? Or what if you're just sick? Or what if it's raining and cold and you don't want to get sick and go outside? Just have a diesel heater. It's $150. Really good way to bring warmth and comfort. And it's dry heat too. So it's not like a little buddy propane. So it's a really good way to bring warmth and comfort into your day-to-day routine, even in a tiny off-grid. The other thing is, the whole point of fires to heat was you have a really big firebox, you light one fire once a day, and then it heats up the house, and then it cools off overnight, and then you reheat the firebox again in the morning. So the concept of a tiny stove or a tiny tot stove or what have you doesn't work for that. So the whole concept of living off of having fire heat kind of goes out the window as soon as you move into a tiny area, a tiny space, because your stove isn't holding heat for 24 hours from one fire. You have to actually stoke it all the time. So that's a matter of how big your stove is, how big your tiny home is, how big your RV is, whatever it may be. There are some middle ground ones where you're stoking it once every 3 or 6 hours, and you can't really argue against that. I mean, that doesn't take very much effort to do. But again, a thermostat's so much better. I'm telling you.
She's got a smile that it seems to me reminds me of childhood memories, where every was as fresh as the bright blue sky. Now and then, when I see her face, she takes me away to that special place that if I stare too long, I'd probably
one of
break down and cry.
more controversial things about Tennessee with the water lines, like how I've been telling everybody in the last few episodes, is when it floods, that road right here is underwater and you can't drive on it. And then normal water line is right here. That water line goes down, which means these beaches are now open to drive on. Yeah, and I'll show you a video of basically a bunch of people just relaxing on them. And now, when I come here during the flood, you don't see this. And then when the water's normal level, it's just a little stump right here. But look how much water has gone down since then. Yeah. It's just a rainy day. But we only get so many days, so we still got to get out. I'm showing you this next clip just to show you how much, after just one summer of living on the water here, my complete body movements have changed. I turned off the light so I could get this storm to show you the water in here, and I wanted to walk out and get the phone wet. But I had to go back in and turn on the inside light so that I could see the ground to make sure there was no water moccasin on the boat before I could walk out and get the video. So it completely changed the shot for me, because I couldn't step outside somewhere where I couldn't see. I needed to have light to walk out there, or I wouldn't have walked out. Don't worry, I'm on an island, we're safe. No side by side will come and hit river. Somebody's stuck. One thing I learned, the first week I had a 4-wheel drive truck. The only difference between 2-wheel drive and 4-wheel drive is how far off the road you get stuck. Because everything gets stuck. That one was just a little too close to the water and it got sucked in. When that happens, sometimes you just gotta gun it and turn right and hope you grip. They're gonna hook up a winch, I'm sure. I think all of those, I know they have chains, but I think all of them have winches too. Look at this, all 4 wheels are just spinning. That's awesome. You know, I gotta tell you, it does not get better than this right now. Sitting here in my rocking chair on my own island with my houseboat here and my dog, and we were watching a bunch of, you know, they're not kids, they're totally adults. They've probably been drinking, having a lot of fun. They're not kids. Those are 60. Some of those side-by-sides are $40,000, $60,000. Oh, he's got out. He's backing out. There we go. And remember how I was saying that the water line here allows you to be on the water? Because the water went down, now everyone can drive on the beach. Yeah. That's awesome. Doing donuts on the beach. You could drive on when the water was up, you could still drive on it if your truck could do it.